Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our podcast series here at High Level called the Spotlight Sessions. In these sessions, we showcase the top leaders in marketing and sales. Today, I'm joined by Mike Agugliaro, founder of Food Dog Group. Mike and I met briefly years ago when he was local in New Jersey running his businesses. And I had the opportunity in the early stage of his launches to kind of witness that evolution. And we've reconnected, and I said, it's only right since you have the success, you're a high level user, that we introduce you to the community. So I want to tell you a little bit about Mike and what you should expect out of today's episode. So Mike Agugliaro helps people with Food Dog Group create life, business, and wealth by design. And a little bit of how that started was where Mike had sold two eight-figure businesses in the last 5 years, one in the home services industry, serving homes and families, and the other in the coaching industry, serving the home services business industry with their owners and their operators. While being a hands-on owner in both of his businesses, both have brought in cumulatively $500 million in sales in his companies. And while doing so, Mike has written over 28 books covering business, personal growth, and marketing. Also, as a high-level user, he leverages our platform to help his business and serve his clients. Although Mike normally doesn't publicly share his wins, he's agreed to get a little bit more in depth with us to the high-level community and share some wisdom. So what we've put together is a jam-packed episode, which is called How to Be a Superhuman in Life and Business. And it took us some time, and we put together 3 bullet points here that should serve a beginner all the way to an advanced SaaSpreneur everything they need to maybe tweak or improve what they're doing now. So the first bullet point we're going to chat about here is what holds most people back. The second one is how do you think about the future? And lastly, Mike's going to go in depth on his 9 quick start actions that you could either pivot to or go all in on. Mike, it's great to have you here. And for those in our audience who might not know you personally, or maybe have heard of you and really don't know your full story, could you share a little bit about the human side of you?
Yeah. Hey, John, I am super excited to be here. I think last time we were together, it's probably at one of my events. We probably were banging tables and had AC/DC playing or something. But this is a real honor, everybody, to talk to all of you. Look, I'll give you a short version. I've been on my own since I'm 15 years old. And I bet some of you are listening, if you could relate to that, just like raise your hand up, like we could see you. If you've been on your own at 15, you know there's a fair amount of struggles, learning, and growth opportunities. And there's a moment where you have make a decision. Are you going to be a success, or are you going to be a statistic? Are you going to be a victor, or are you going to be a victim? And I chose really early on to be a victor. I wanted to be this warrior that could break trends, prove things wrong. And also, I was fueled because if I didn't work harder and smarter and different, well, you were wondering where your next meal was going to come from. And I'm also proud to share with everybody, not only, and we'll dig into some fun subjects, not only have I built, big companies and exited big companies the last 5 years, I've managed to do that and stay passionately married to my beautiful wife, Jennifer. We've been together since 15 years old, so it's over 38. I'm level 54 right now. That's a lot better way of saying your age than 54 years old. So some of you can adopt that. And I started as an electrician. And John, you know some of this. And as an electrician, so if there is any, don't worry if it's an electrician or you're a SaaS owner. Let's just call it about I started in the trenches. And if you can relate to the trenches, just nod your head. Yeah, trenches, right? Long days, late nights, and wondering, like, you're almost begging to go to bed, and you're wondering how you're going to wake up in the morning. And so as an electrician by trade, so I know how to climb through attics and crawl through crawl spaces, smell a whole lot of cat urine in crawl spaces, to the point the journey becomes so painful. Again, you get these transitions in life where, and maybe for you, this episode, this spotlight might be your transition that you've been waiting to hear this message. And I remember just saying, man, I just can't keep doing it this way. I'm going to be like my dad. Now, how many of you listening have a dad that was like the hardest worker in the world, but missed a whole lot of stuff, was never really home, but you loved them so much? And that was the first turning point for me, John, was like, man, am I going to be like my dad? Am I going to miss everything? And that set me on a catalyst to scale a company from under $1 million to 32 million in less than 10 years. I had 200 employees, 165 trucks. And if you're in New Jersey, you probably know the company Gold Medal. And that launched, and I'll finish this up quickly, I know, but for all of you listening, if we don't set a framing, John and I, well, you're going to say, I don't know why should I grab a notebook, which you should grab a pen and notebook right now. I then went on to build a company called CEO Warrior for the main purpose of, I was so exhausted of watching my friends suffer, John. Like every time I'm around a plumber, I'm like, yeah, I just bought 20 new trucks. And they're like, good for you. I'm dying in a trench. So I created a coaching company and I coached over 1,000 business owners, over 20,000 different tradespeople through our trainings, and help them learn how to have a better life, create a better business, and create wealth by design. And I sold that company in 2020 to go into Food Dog Group today, which this is exactly what we do. All of us know, John, that success is 80% of what's happening in the mind. It's the psychology of the side. The 20% is all the skills and the marketing and the sales and the operations and the systems and the technology. But if you don't get the 80% right, the 20 is hard. We get the 80 right, the 20 becomes super fuel. So let me hand it back over to you.
Yeah, man. And I think it's important because, there's so much content out there, Mike. There's so much inspiration. There's so many YouTube channels. There's so many blogs. There's so many amazing people that are out there trying to share their story. But sometimes the missing piece is the actual in-depth experience. And the reason why I wanted to connect with you and we were going at it for some time is because the context, the layers that you would bring to our community just to share some of the in the trenches and the real life, I've been there, done that, for me is more valuable to share to our community of these fine beginner or advanced SaaSpreneurs that are going through the trenches on their own or trying to figure it out as they go. So thank you for sharing that to validate that. Look, we are on a path, and the path that we're on is because we're following other people's clues, their trainings and their successes. So let's jump into this first topic that we put together. And I know that all of these bullet points, we can spend an hour, 2 hours. You actually do dedicated one-to-one trainings and group trainings on these topics, so they go in depth pretty deep. But for this audience that we have here, I want you to balance out and think about, their beginner and their advanced. There's a nice mix that tune in. What holds most people back in your experience working with beginner entrepreneurs that started a business, ended up working in the business as an employee of their own business, and then evolve and unlock different parts of their journey to become the owner, operator, delegator that you've trained them to be with your skills and experience? Could you elaborate that at your own pace, so we can get full context?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you, John. What holds a lot of people back, and it might sound, like rudimentary, like this, is your thinking. But let's go into it a little bit more about your thinking. When I grew up, John, I found a nickel or a dime on the ground. I was maybe 6 years old. I was like, Mom, look, I found a nickel. I found a nickel. And she was like, oh, Michael, that's so good. Now go wash your hands, because money is, and all of you just answered it, dirty. And then you went and you got your tooth fairy came or something, and or birthday money, and you were like, oh, I got $20. And then your mom said, or your dad said, now go wash your hands because money is dirty. And you're thinking, well, Mike, who cares? I'm not 6 years old anymore. But the thought is still inside your mind. And a lot of you, what's holding most people back is just a thought. Look, 2008. Now, John, you're young. I don't even know if you know 2008, but 2008 was an interesting time where people's thoughts were like, it was like doom and gloom. And I turned around, and I'm going to share something because I want to share with you not only some of my thoughts, what I applied to win. And it's not about me winning because I have plenty of losses too that I could share. But in 2008, this is good about the framing of the mind. I had maybe 100 employees then, and they're all scared and confused and probably going to apply this today. And I went in front of them and I said one thing, and this changed everything. And I'm not saying this to brag, but we never had a down year, never had a flat year. And the minimum amount, John, we added year after year was 1 million. The biggest I added in a year was 6.5 million. And the biggest month I ever had was 3.2 million. I went in front of them and I said this: I am not willing to participate in this economy back then. We are our own economy. Boom. And it flipped and everything changed. So what happens? Why do people struggle to move forward? Well, look at all the thinking and the programming, the thoughts you have. Answer this, everybody listening. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first right what? You answered it. Step. Well, I don't know who wrote that, Sun Tzu or somebody 5,000 years ago. And I hope you don't get offended, but what an idiot. And you're like, Mike, why is he an idiot? Well, what if the first step is off a cliff? I believe a journey of 1,000 miles, a journey of 1,000 successful miles starts with the first right step and planning that step. When you look into what you've been told and what you have adopted as truth, everybody grab your pen and write this down. Every thought that you have, ask this one thing. Is that true? Who told me it was true? Do I still want it to be true? Is that true? Who told me it's true? Do I still want it to be true? Do you have to work hard to build a company that gives you lots of money? No, the answer is no. You don't have to work hard. There's a lot of people that don't work hard. The thought inside your mind of what working hard or not is. What about this thought? You have to think positive. And I know some of you might be motivated by this spotlight. I don't want you to be motivated. I want you to have a transformation. I want you to consider listening to something today where, boom, it changes for you forever. But my grandmother used to point at me with that like crooked old finger with like hair on it. You got to be positive. Well, I got news for you. There is no positive and negative. There's no right and wrong. There's no good or bad. There's only the definition you give it. And a lot of us that are struggling with either whatever it is, it doesn't matter if it's with your relationship, your children, your company, you're struggling because you're in a constant fight against what you thought was true versus what could be true, your new truth. You're not 6 years old. John, I went to, because I'm such a curious person. My wife and I, we haven't done it in a while, but we used to tell the kids we got to go to the pharmacy to get stuff. And really what we were going is I was going to Rita's, if anybody's ever eaten Rita's, but I don't want to tell the kids we're going to Rita's. And we did run in Walgreens, the pharmacy, to get some stuff. And then me and my wife would sit there and I'd put sprinkles in the Rita's and I'd eat it and I'd watch people. And I would ask myself a question, which you might ask yourself a question like, why did that person park there? Why did they walk in the door this way? And by being curious about these things, I started to become curious about myself. Why am I thinking this way? Why am I saying these things? Why do I have that self-talk? I'm good enough or I'm not good enough. I'm doing the right thing. I'm not doing the right thing. And if we could, John, just look at our inner self, and I studied this for over 3 decades. I've been helping people say, now we're not talking about hypnosis and NLP. We're just talking about, let's look at the basic fundamentals. Who are you today? And I'll summarize this with one last thing, an action item for all of you. The action item here is you have an identity. Your identity is either you're an introvert, an extrovert. Your identity is maybe you're motivated or you're not motivated. Maybe your identity is you feel you're a champion or you feel you're a loser. I hope you don't feel you're a loser. But it's not about the identity you have today. Anything you want to do, you have to change your identity. I'm going to give you one quick identity shift. Ready, John? When you're just a worker. All of us, we go out there, we get a job. Somebody asked me, John, why'd you ever start your own business? I said, well, the boss I was working for was an idiot. And then he said this, well, what happened next? I said, I started my own business to find out I was an idiot just like him. I didn't know any better, right? I didn't know any better. And when I look at it, you start out as a worker and then you want to become a business owner, right? All of you are shaking your head. Nirvana is going to open up. So exciting in the beginning, right? It's very exciting. And then people start framing you. Well, you got to work on your business, not in your business. And I summarized it finally after 3 decades. I said, listen, the goal is not to be a business owner or operator. It's to be a wealth investor. Okay, hold on, everybody. John, everybody's like, well, I'm not a wealth. I don't have money maybe yet. Well, a wealth of it, do all of you invest wealth in your relationship, maybe your health, when you hug your children and you kiss them goodnight or in the morning? Isn't that wealth? So I learned if you could just consider adopting, next time somebody says to you, well, what do? You say, I'm a wealth investor. And they go, huh, really? Yeah. I invest in maybe a SaaS company or a service company or anything. I invest in my family and my children. I invest in my health. I invest in my future. And when I took on that identity, because now, John, one of the things we do is we have a portfolio of companies that we have equity in to help them scale to grow to an exit. Well, if I never thought I was worthy of doing that in my identity, I can never get there. So let me stop there because, as John said, I normally talk for 3 days, 16 hours a day, but I want to give you the meat and bones of exactly what you guys need to hear today.
Yeah. And you know, you really got to, you know, the core of what you normally outline, and you go in depth through these workshops that you do, you know, at your home or offsite or virtually, whatever the case may be, right? So thank you for that. And you know, you mentioned a few things that really stuck out to me, and you know, being in the SaaS industry myself for the last 8 years, meeting some of the most amazing people within the high level community, with which, if I would have known what I know now 8 years ago, I would have changed my whole direction of where I was at, where I worked, and what I did. So, but you can't take back that time, right? You can't take back that time. It's already spent. It's already done. So you mentioned a few things where, you know, life experiences, self-talk, and just really your mindset. Could you share with the audience, because you're very motivational, spiritual, positive thinking, right? Maybe I'm using some of the language that I'm used to using. And that'll pivot as I get to know more about you and your view on how you teach others.
Yeah.
But what was like the hardest part in your personal business life that you went through that you really started to second guess, what the heck am I really doing?
Yeah. Well, man, there's been a ton of these. And I want you guys to write down something. Write down the word mindset real quick. Write it down. And then I want you to cross it out. And next to it, I want you to put mind growth. Nobody wants mindset. They want mind growth. My dad was a mason, John. And as a mason, if you poured concrete inside your mind, it sets, it's stuck. I believe it's one of the words people put upon you so you wouldn't grow. Now, mind growth, why are you even listening to this? Because you want mind growth, right? You want to be able to think different than you thought yesterday. Because you guys know the phrase, to have something different, you got to think different. Otherwise, that's doing the same thing over and over, expecting a change. Insanity. Most of you know that. But I will share with you one of the two pivotal moments. The first one was the reality I shared in the beginning of this. My wife, when we had my son and he was born, and how many of you have kids? Nod your head, right? Like, it's the greatest day of your life, and then you never rest again the rest of your life, right? Because you're so concerned about like the future of your kids. And my son was born, and my wife was in the hospital, and I came home to build, John, one of these gliding rocking chairs, right? You got to put it together. Back then, I thought it was probably like $300. That's probably like 3,000 today. My son's 25. And I remember putting it together. It might have been about 10 o'clock at night. And I didn't have a lot. I only had one light in this room because I didn't have what I have today. And I sat in that chair and I just broke down crying. I said, man, that was the first reality. I'm going to first work myself to death, and I'm going to miss everything. So that created, this has to change. Number 2 turning point for me. I don't know if any of you have partners. My partner came in one day. I'm sure you met him, John, Rob Zadati. And he came in one day and he said, listen, I'm out. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. I figured because we used to eat, like the lunch truck used to pull up and we used to eat these empanadas. They used to pull it out of the back in the little tin, like the woman would make it. And I figured he had a case of the craps or something. He's like, I'm out. I'm thinking, okay, it's a bad day. I said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. He goes, you don't understand. I'm out. I'm done. I'm burnt. I'm toast. My knees are bad. I can't crawl in these crawl spaces no more. I just can't do this type of work. My body's falling apart. And me, I wasn't falling apart like that because I'm a martial artist of 38 years. So anybody else that's a martial artist, raise your hand. Hey, I appreciate you. And so I was like, I looked at it as not only like tough, but I looked at it as training. But for him, it was killing him. And that was a turning point where after a couple of days, we said, okay, you know what? If we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. But what if? And then a glimpse of light came in. Like, and I hope all of you could just see this glimpse of light. Like, what if we could go from 2 and 3 guys struggling in a truck to building an empire service company? What would that look like? What would it feel like? And then we did what most people fear do. We went and found some of the smartest people in the world that figured it out way before us. We got really brave, John. We took out back then our Amex card, which was funny. The other day, they're like, thank you for 35 years. I'm like, 35 years? You should be sending me fruit baskets, man. Like, I'm giving you a whole lot of money in 35 years. And, I invested in people. And like you mentioned before, I think time feels short when you're not getting to where you want to go. Right now, I live what I call, people want to get to a life of freedom. They call it a life without any worries about time, money, do what you want, where you want, with who you want, without any restrictions of time and money. I believe everybody listening wants to get what they call a vacation style life. A vacation style life is every day's fun. You only do what feels passionate to you. And all of you can do this tonight, I promise, no matter what place you're in. And you have built a life by design and not by default. So, yeah. And I could go on and on about lawsuits. And we crashed into the same bridge, John.
Oh
8 different trucks ripped the
my
roofs
gosh.
off on the bridge. I almost considered blowing the bridge up. I thought it might be cheaper than all the trucks
Oh
I
my.
had to repair. So I could go on and on about that. But here's the thing. Things either create breakdowns or breakthroughs. And everybody should write that down. And the minute you see it as a breakthrough and not a breakdown, and you learn to have things not as problems, but as opportunities, everything changes in life. Your relationship, your health, your business, boom.
Yeah. And you didn't just wake up and train your brain in 12 hours to think the way you think. And you also didn't create the life that you want by just waking up one day and saying it's going to happen by tomorrow. So I want to get a little bit more in depth on how somebody can take some wisdom and advice from your experiences and how they can think about their future. And I want to just frame it with a couple of different things to consider. Independent, single,
Yeah.
maybe doesn't have a family support, really in the trenches alone, emotionally and family wise, just kind of doing their thing, trying to make a better life for themselves. Then I want to pivot to somebody that is maybe at that midlife, that 30, 40 mark. They're in the software, they're in the business, they're in ownership, and they're like hitting the plateau that they're like, man, is this it for me? Do I need to transition to something else? And maybe they have a girlfriend or fiance or someone in that case. And then I want to also for you to consider the married with supportive partner with kids. And I know, Mike, you have, your 2 children, your wife, you have a big
Yeah.
family that you're also navigating on top of your business. And just like we all do, right? We all have our lives, but they're navigating that, and everything they do, they're thinking about them because it impacts them, right?
Yeah.
And on top of the responsibility. How do you plan a future from where you're at now? Like, forget about everything, all the crap that happened before. How do you plan from where you're at now, whether it's in the trenches and it sucks, or it's okay, but I know I could do better?
Yeah, I love this question. And I'm going to give you a formula right now that applies if you don't even have a company, have a $5 million, $20 million company, or you're a baby boomer and you're wondering when you might retire or go cruise around on a ship and fish or golf all day. Some of you have heard this formula before, but I'm going to give you a piece that nobody's ever talked about, at least to me. And it's called the gap analysis. Okay. A simple form, if you've never heard of a gap analysis, is where are you at today? I mean, really at. Are you confused? Are you focused? Are you excited? Are you depressed, right? Is your company have an opportunity or is it a declining industry? Like, just get real. Where's my relationship? Where is my health? Where is my thinking? So much detail to how do you think the air smells right now? How do you feel inside? How does your brain work before bed? Is it running around like a monkey mind? Or is it laser focused with, I can't wait to wake up tomorrow, which is a great little exercise every night, John. People do gratitude exercises, and I think it's great. And I think they do one part right and one part could be different. The part they do right is they're very thankful about everything they have and everything happened. One of the most powerful gratitude exercises I do at night is I go, okay, I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for my children. I'm thankful I'm here in this bed. And then I start to be thankful for what's coming. I'm thankful for my company that's going to grow by 40%. I'm thankful for a future that I see. Now that's a gratitude exercise on jet fuel. The next thing, first thing in the morning when I wake up, I smile because I'm like, holy mackerel, you mean I'm going to get to hug my wife again, slap her ass again, hug my son, talk to my kids. Like, I'm very thankful about that. But you got to get clear. Where are you? And are you making where you're at worse than what it is, right? Are we making that, mountain out of that molehill? The next thing is, where do you want to go? And if you could write down, right, if we put this where you're at and where you want to go, we could just write down with no worries about what anybody else is saying or anything from the past. Like, I want to have this company, this life, live in this place. I live at the Jersey Shore right now. I've been here about 5 years full time. The ocean's right there. The bay's right there. I told myself excuses for 15 plus years why me and my wife couldn't live here, because the company was an hour away and I'd have to go back and forth because I didn't know what I didn't know. But if I got really clear back then, my mind, just so you know, your mind will start to create the outcome that it believes it will have, it can have. So now we have to have an arch. You guys know this, the gap analysis, a lot of you. The arch is where you're at, where you got to go, and what's the steps to get there. But here's the part that's missing. There's a line across the bottom going this way, and that's called the resistance line. Nobody taught me this. I just kept saying, after helping, and now in the last 36 months, over 64 companies that I've worked with over the years have sold and exited. In the last 36 months, 64, John, and 90% of them become deca millionaires. But in the beginning, it wasn't like that. I'm saying, I'm telling you where you're at. You're telling me where you want to go. I'm giving you everything. I'm giving you the marketing, the sales, the operations, the systems. I'm talking about stuff no one's talking about in the world. Why are you not winning? Because there's a resistance line going back. And like you said, the resistance line is you feel like you're on an island alone. Well, you're never alone. Listening to this, you're not alone. You have us. We're friends right here now. Or you're thinking, I don't have money for something. Well, it's never about money. It's about how you think about money. So we have to tackle this resistance every time. And if I asked everybody, and we won't hear what they say, but say it or write it down. How many of you listening are dealing with some kind of shame, guilt, or trauma? Let's talk to all the brackets. Some of you, you're small and struggling and you feel shamed because you're not giving your family the dream they desire. Some of you that are middle level companies, maybe you're 5, 10, 20 million. You're dealing with some form of guilt because every time you're at a Thanksgiving dinner, your family's like, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Big Shot are here now. You have it all figured out, right? And trauma, what about some of you that might be really huge companies, but you're lonely because you're dealing with all these things. You got your butt kicked throughout the years and throat chopped, and maybe, you had problems in family. Well, that resistance line, what I learned, John, the fastest route, let's tackle these shame, guilts, and traumas, which could be trauma from business, 2008. I say that word, people get a nervous twitch in their eye. I'm like, you do realize that's a long time ago. And then they want to try to convince you, and I know we'll probably end with this, like, oh, now's like 2008. No, no, no. Now's like the greatest industrialized age in history for opportunity. We'll get there later. So if you could just take a piece of paper, I promise you, if you do it, it's worth it. Just write, where am I at? Boom. Where do I want to go? Boom. Draw an arch. What are some of the first 10 actions to get there? Draw the resistance line and say to yourself, what do I have to remove from my life? Remove from my mind? How many people have this shiny object syndrome? You know, I'm sure you got friends, John. They're brilliant, but every day there's a new thing that they're just not doing. And everybody wants to convince you consistency is key. No, let me be first to tell you consistency is wrong. How do I know? Well, look, if I had a weight, John, let's put 25 pounds. I don't even know if I could do 25 pounds. My son could do it easily. But if I took a 25-pound weight and I curled it and I'm consistent every day, will my muscle grow this big? If I do it for 20 years, will my muscle hit the ceiling? The answer is no. Everybody write this down. It's consistently changing every day. It's consistently changing every day. Let me hand it back to you, John.
Mind blown. I mean, you know, what makes it different to hear from you, Mike, versus, you know, a celebrity motivational speaker? What makes it different, you know, from what you're saying versus all the books that were written? You know, why you? Why do you feel the assuming of teaching others, right? Because you're passionate about it, because you've been there, done that, and maybe you touch one or you touch thousands. I'm grateful to hear this firsthand, because I've had the privilege of seeing, you know, early on bits and pieces from a distance of that evolution with the amazing people that you had brought with you in your circle, how they've expanded to other areas. So I want to wrap this up, this particular bullet point on how do you think about the future? How can somebody that you've described and you're helping them with their future, how can they start to be considerate or allocate without it coming off hypocritical or like you're doing too much, to help those around them build their future with their influence, whether it's coaching, mentoring, or financial, without just giving it all to them and making it seem like it's too good to be true, or you're you know, insulting?
Yeah, well, you know, I am a believer, and my friend Joe Polish, I think, is the first one I heard say it. Like, if people don't pay, they don't pay attention. So I do believe that there needs to be some kind of exchange we're having for people to want to move forward. Because, like you said, I was sitting there one day, John, and I was saying, you know, there's people out there today, they say, I fed 1 million people this year and I fed 1 million families. And I say to myself, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Why don't we teach them how to feed themselves? Let's go out there. Now, yeah, maybe they're in a place where they can't feed themselves. Maybe they have no legs, no arms, no, but I mean, there's people out there today with no legs and no arms, and they're some of the best speakers in the world, and they're golfing and swimming. So I think the thing is, first, do you really care about people? Most people like me and in my circle that are really out there, and I'll say it in a humble way, and I hope everybody knows, like, trust me, I could share as many downsides as upsides in my life, and I'm no better than you. I just did some different things. I learned early on, if you go to a mountain of success and you're all alone, it's going to feel good for a moment, but it won't feel good for a lifetime, because you're going to be all alone. So it's best if we could bring people with us. The other thing is, I think a lot of you that might be building companies or getting ready, I'm a movement builder. I create movements. And the movement I wanted to create when I grew a service company is I wanted to prove that service could be done in a way that nobody realized. I mean, I was just at an event and they were talking about stuff they're doing in the service industry, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, and stuff. And I'm like, I did it 20 years ago. I wanted a movement to show the highest quality of service from someone that looks good, smells good, acts good. And then from there, when I went into the service industry, and I hope this framing, I'm sharing these models with you so you could say, where are you at within the model in your own life? When I built CEO Warrior, it was a movement. I wanted to remove suffering from the blue collar. Everybody wants to run around saying this segregation, segregation. We've been calling blue collar and white collar from the beginning of time. What about this? Humans that just want to be better, serve their family more, live a long, rewarding life, that they feel that they created a legacy and something. John, look, let everybody reflect on this. This is something I think about all the time. I want all of you listening to think, do you know your father's father? Okay, and you probably go, yeah, it's my grandfather. Do you know your father's father's father? And you go, well, yeah, I kind of knew about him. He was from Italy or something like that. Do you know your father's 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 father? And the answer is always no. That means within a couple like short generations, who you are, what you did is you don't even have any idea. And so when you go back and you do this and you say, I'm going to help change, like we're working, we said it was going to be, we're going to change 100 million lives. We just moved it to 120 million lives because we believe we're already making such a huge impact in the world on the butterfly effect of one changing the other. I get text every day, and I hope all of you will find me on Facebook or something just to say hello, because I don't want this to be a drive-by. I want you to look at me and John and everything as we're a support system out there that you never got to feel your darkest day you're alone. And so if everybody could step into that, because money really is, John, especially with this world today, more millionaires, billionaires are going to be made from now to 2030 than ever in history. We're at the greatest time. And I say that to people, and they only could tap into their subconscious of the pain and suffering and what they're dealing with today. They stay stuck. But if you could just say to yourself, between technology, I mean, what you guys do is a movement. Look at it. Everything that you guys do, it's a movement. It is a way to do it in a way no one else has ever thought, in a way that's so different, in a way that when I meet somebody and they're on the same platform, we have an instant community connection.
Crazy.
And it's community. And when you look at community, I always summarize the powerful community. There is a fuel and movement behind it. And the movement is just like for you guys and me, it's, I don't want anybody to suffer. And if you want to suffer less and have more and live a better life and reward your family and be able to do things, or even have, someone told me this, John, one time. I was telling them, talking about money, and they said, Mike, money's not everything. And I said, very well said, from a broke ass individual. And I don't know, maybe you guys got to bleep that out. So sorry about that. I hope maybe broke butt individual. And I said to them, I said, look, when you're done telling a story, let's stop being selfish and become self-full and start making so much money that you could give it away to help someone else. But I tell you something, money is good when your parents get old. My dad passed in November, and as he got older and as my mom gets older, it's good to be able to know you now have resources to help them. And all of you, I promise, we didn't even share. I mean, I'm a vocational school graduate. You know who goes to vocational schools? Everyone they pretty much are sure is not built for college, not built for higher education. You're going to become a plumber, electrician. I mean, it worked out great for me. But if I could do it, now look, I'm not diminishing. John, I've invested, and any of you could challenge me. And I'm not bragging about it because I wish there was another way. 3.8 million to date in my own education, last 18 years, 3.8 million. And somebody said, brain surgeons don't spend that much on their education. I said, yeah, I know, but I also made more than most brain surgeons probably make on planet Earth today. And the other thing is I invested $250,000 between my wife, my partner, my son last year in our own education last year. So let's do this. Let's just put a bullet point down, a clear action on this, that if you want to move faster, be in a community, be in a movement, and invest around the right people that could get you there quicker. Because when they say learning curves, there's no such thing. It's called lack of education. That's what a learning curve is. It's not a badge of honor. Okay, it's not. It just means that you did not listen somewhere to choose a different path.
Yeah, powerful. And with the education, I've met several folks out and about within different industries, and you know, they proudly share, they invest with hopes of inspiring others to see that you investing in people that are smarter or have gotten to where you're at before you is a
Yeah.
good thing. And we've seen it. I've seen it since I've been here at high level, and I've seen it in my career that those that are going to seminars, being part of mindset groups, of masterminds, um,
Yeah.
coaching, meeting with a therapist, meeting with a specialist in industry, fast tracks you, and there is a premium associated because of the time, attention, and information. So the number can vary in how much, but really, as human beings, we need to be understanding of the barometer and who we're investing in, because they're going to be giving us information that can make or break us. So thank you for sharing that, Mike. And we went a little bit more in depth on this. How do you think about the future? Because I think planning is important, and I appreciate you sharing some of your experiences, but also action items. I know that you go in depth on this in your trainings and in your one-to-ones and just overall in your ecosystem. You have something called the 9 quick start actions.
Yeah.
And I know that you're going to put together some supportive information that we're going to include on the bottom of this episode on a link for everyone to learn more and to download it. But could you elaborate on where the 9 quick start actions came from? Why 9? What makes them quick start? And then maybe jump right into those
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah. So as I was scaling my company, we went from under 1 million to 32 million in less than 10 years. And we went from a couple employees to 200 employees, and from a couple trucks to 165 vehicles. But in the very early days, I started to say there's got to be a crystal ball to solve anything. There's got to be a formula here. And so I spent, wow, months and months and months building this theory that I wanted to test from all of my experience, from my trainings, from my martial arts experience, from my discipline, focus. And I came up and I actually wrote a book called The 9 Pillars. And now that I look at it, these are not only 9 pillars, they're 9 quick start. They are things that if you think about, you could solve anybody's situation. So I'm going to give you the first 3, and for time, we're going to go pretty quick. And also, this is one of these spotlights that I guarantee you're going to go back and you're going to listen again and again and again, year after year here. So the first 3 is mindset, skill set, and action. Now, mindset is the whole processing system. Do I think I can do it? Think I can't do it? Skill set. Well, look, if you pick up a computer and you never saw a computer before, well, you don't have the skill. You're going to push a button. You're probably going to do some wrong stuff on it. Action is when your mind says, I know what to do. Skill sets is, I have the skills to do it. Action is, do you get off the couch and actually do it? Do you move forward? So those were the first 3. I said, I got it all figured out. I thought I created nirvana here for the planet. And then I said, okay. Somebody said, yeah, but I'm just Mike. I'm not clear what are we trying to do this month? And I went, oh my goodness. There's three more, John, that I figured out. So 1 is clarity. Clarity is, are you really clear with your kids, with your wife, with your team, your employees, your clients? Are you really clear with clarity? Clarity, when I do a talk, John, I talk to sometimes in front of crowds, 3,000 people. And I go, who wants to make more money? And all their hands go up. And I grab someone and I give them $1. I say, good, get the heck out. You're done. Well, he's like, it's $1. You said you wanted to make more money. You weren't clear with me how much money. So if you don't have clarity of how much money, I mean, I woke up every morning and used to write on my hand in a black marker on my arm right here, 10 million. Every morning I shower before work, 10 million, 10 million, 10 million. Then I hit 10 million. Then I changed it, 20 million. Now you guys watching are probably glad I didn't tattoo myself. I'd have lines crossing out all over my arms, right? So you got to have clarity. But if I have clarity in my mind and it's Saturday, I tell my wife, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. She says, you're very clear, but we're not very aligned. Write down alignment. We're not very aligned. So you could be clear, but now you got to have alignment with everybody. How many of you, every time, first off, I never had vendors. I had what I considered partners. Go High Level is not a vendor, they're a partner. I don't have equity in their company. They're a partner because they're in my ecosystem. When John and I talked before this, I'm like, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm building. I want everybody in my world to be, I want my neighbor to know what's happening. I want everybody to be on board with their focus of where we're going. So I'm like, all right, we're finished. But then guess what? I found out some people you got to hold accountable. So you need accountability. And accountability is different for everybody. Most people, when they look at accountability, they look like you must do it or you're bad. Well, accountability is the ability for you to make a decision in yourself that there is a greater reward than consequence. When people know there's a great reward, like kids when they're young, when you clean your room, we get ice cream. You don't have to hold them accountable because they're like, I love where we're going, so I'm going to do self-accountability. So again, I think I'm done. But guess what? Someone turns around to me and they say, Mike, you know what? If we don't manage the process, the people, well, they're going to fall off track. So the next one's managing. And everybody's confused with managing. They're so mad at their managers, like, we're trying to grow, but you're just, the term managing is maintain. It's not growth and scale. A manager is to keep the wheels on the bus, get it to run a little better, but most managers don't put jet fuel behind it because that's not why you hired them. You didn't hire them to improve everything. You hired them to reinforce what you already have, at least most of you. So I said, okay, well, managing gets it done. Well, someone says, yeah, but you know what, Mike, if you would just coach us a minute, just give us a little coaching. I was like, here's another pillar. So we got to manage people, but we got to coach them for improvement, coach them for energy, coach them for staying on track of food. You can do it. Let's do it together. And then finally, the last one is like, someone said, I am all in. I know all these things. Can you just give me a little training? Can you give me a little training? And that was the final of the 9. So what did I do? I built these 9. Now I am writing a book on the 10th pillar, and I will share it. And I've only shared it 3 times because I don't want someone to go take my book, but I'm going to share it because the book's not done. And I believe you guys will honor and you're going to get value in it. First, the 9 pillars that I built, these 9, look at them at Quickstart. Just look at them today. How is my mindset today? How's my skill set? What action do I have to take? I could look at you, John, and say, hey, think about something you want to do. You want to improve your health? Which one of those 9 are you stuck in? And you will pick one. You'll go, well, you know what? My mind, I don't believe it's important now. Or you might go, I just need someone for training. Or I need you, Mike, to call me every morning. Get your butt up and don't put that in your mouth. Eat this instead. But I just started to teach my whole company the 9 pillars and just said, hey, if your conversion, your average, your, whatever's happening, recruiting, what's keeping us from hiring the best in the world, it's in one of those 9. Let me give you the 10th one and I'll hand it back to you, John. I have these 9 pillars, call them 9 quick start actions to run yourself through daily, sometimes hourly, depending on how quick you want to scale and grow. And I kept saying, I'm trying to break this thing. For a decade, I couldn't break it. And then one day I broke it. Energy. Energy is the 10th pillar. Now let me explain. And I want you to write something down. Energy is everything and everything's energy. Now I'm not going to get all foo-foo-y with you and talk about Mars and stuff. If you don't have physical energy, if you don't have energy in your mind, energy in your body, you can't do any of the 9. It's the number one thing that collapses all of the 9 pillars. How do I know? Well, look at it. Anytime your company was not working or your relationship's not in a place, what happens? Do you run around in excitement? Well, maybe some of you, I hope not. Or do you get deflated and you're like, I don't know if I want to get out of bed. I'm going to go to bed early and I'm going to kind of walk around and, you're arguing with your wife or something. I'm sure most of us can relate to that. Do you feel energized or deflated? So number 10 is you got to start there. You got to raise your vibration of energy. How you look at yourself in the mirror. And John, let's do a little test here. And you guys answer somewhere, if not in your mind. This morning, do you even remember seeing yourself in the mirror? Most people remember they brush their teeth, they comb their hair. They saw a mirror, they didn't see themselves. And now I just probably gave you a freaky thing that every morning you're going to be like, I see you. I want you to see yourself in the mirror, not the imperfection, the greatness. And this is not meant to motivate. It's meant to create focus. So you could look and go, okay, yeah, all right. I love this. It's okay if you want an improvement or an enhancement. Oh, I got a little belly thing here. Where it's okay. But don't do it in a beating way. Do it in a, I'm ready to apply these now 10 pillars, 10 quick starts into your life. And then say in that moment in the mirror, what is the one of them I need to do right now today? And your life will change. And that's how you scale companies 30, 40, 50. I've done multiple exits in the last 5 years. If everybody just takes that one thing and applies it in their world, their family, their employees, their team, everything will change in life.
Yeah, Mike, that hit home because, as I'm thinking about it, and thankfully you answered it pretty quickly. Yeah, I look in the mirror, and what I'm concerned about in the mirror at that moment is how I'm going to look to others. My hair, do I need to put a little bit more gel? Is my beard, all the hairs all over? Do I have dry skin? Like what? Like I just want to be presentable. I'm not looking in the mirror to see what could I do better for me, or what could I remind myself that I've been doing great so far. I'm not
Yeah.
using it as a moment of reflection for my personal life and future. I'm looking as a reflection of I don't want to look crazy.
Right. John, I'll share something and it might pull on the heart chords a little bit with some people. So if it does, take a moment and just embrace it. My dad, when he was passing, I'm sure all of us could relate to this type of thing. He held my hand. It was only a couple weeks before he transitioned. And he said to me, son, I'm proud of you. I said, thank you, Dad. That's nice. But I want to let you know something. And I hope it's something that, you can just ponder on now. I said, thank you for being proud of me, but I'm proud of me. And he just looked and shook his head like in such a sense of like, wow, what a gift that I didn't need his pride because I knew I had that. What I needed through life, and I wish upon all you, is when you look in the mirror, you go, I'm proud of you because you're not quitting, you're not stopping, you're making decisions most people are not making today, and you're willing to move forward, and you listen to this point. So I'm proud of you, but you should be proud of you.
Yeah. And amen. And rest easy for your father. I know this is recent, and it's never easy. And these moments, we all go through these moments like you mentioned where, it feels like the end of the world. You start
Yeah.
to second guess your faith. You start to second guess your goals, your family objectives, and what you want to do, or even your career. And maybe, if you balance out and use at least the 9 pillars or the 10th as a guide, it can maybe save you from flushing everything down the toilet or giving up sooner than later. And you want to just kind of realign yourself. And thank you for sharing that. And I want to pivot here just real quick because I want to bring this back to how you take everything you've shared with us and how you apply it into your actual business now with your venture of what you've been doing the last couple of years. You're a high level user. You have a team that you've invested, committed within your company to be experts, and you take your vision and they make it come to life, right? And we spoke briefly about, how can we do this? How can we do that? I know a lot of this, but I don't know any of that, and I want to combine both worlds to be better for me and my team. With with what you've seen in your years, and let's just take this back to when you were in business, you were using the yellow pages and you were a firm believer of the yellow pages
Yeah.
over decades and decades and decades as it started diminishing fast and faster and fastest. And you would use different platforms and you had different partners and you had different systems with go high level and what you're doing now. And again, just from a business perspective, for someone that is offering this as a service to someone like yourself or someone just in business, what should they keep in mind when
Yeah.
positioning the platform to somebody who may not be tech savvy or really see the value in the bells and whistles?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you're not joining a product. You're joining a product with a community drive behind it that you're no longer ever alone again. I mean, that's what you guys do. When I'm at any event or something, it always comes up today because technology is a thing. They're not talking the thing I was just at. They didn't say what yellow page are you in anymore, right? They didn't say that. They say, what do you use for CRM? What do you use for technology? And there's never an area that someone said, oh, I'm on Go High Level. And I go, me too. And then click, there is a bond there. That bond and what happens from that, the support system, the are you doing this? I'm doing this. How are you leveraging it? That you can't put a price on that. And just so everybody knows, this was not rehearsed. He didn't ask me to say this. This is me. And hopefully after you watch this whole interview, you know I'm as transparent as it comes. That's my belief behind it. And that's what I look for in organizations. I look for when I'm working with and partnering in companies like you guys or anybody, how are we going to be connected? I want to know about the people. I don't want just some robot out there that has no connection. I can't talk to anybody. That's good for a moment. That's not good for a lifetime. And that's what I look for. Lifetime connections to people that believe in me and that I also believe in them.
Yeah. And with your team, in your meetings, in your operation checkpoints, what are some things that your teams share with you? Maybe one or two things that they're doing that's helping accelerate your vision and your opportunity to touch others. What are they doing within the platform or maybe sharing with you that we need to do more of in that?
Yeah, great. And everybody should understand, I am not a founder that goes in and touches all this stuff. I don't go in QuickBooks. I don't even have a login to it. I look at myself as a high-level visionary driver that motivates, educates, and transforms this team to be, we take average people and we make them incredible, unstoppable, superhuman people on our team. And that's why we never have a recruiting problem, because we always have a waiting list, because when people come in our world, we help them become better people and then they're better in the company. But some of the things we are leveraging, our team are using your platform for landing pages. They're knocking it out of the park. They're converting. We're doing things now like we did an event. It was an in-person event. I don't want to give too many details because it's probably not relevant, but let's just say 100% conversion. Okay, 100% conversion of dollars, the lowest dollar being 3,000. Okay, so that should already make some of you ears poke up a little bit. And then a lot of people joined our membership programs and things we have. And I don't know anybody out there today that's doing 100% conversion, but it doesn't start at the event. And I've done, and you've been to my events. I've been doing 80 to 90% conversion on events because the amount of value we deliver. And our, normally it's 100,000 plus agreements at 80, 90%. No one in the world I know do that. It's not about that. It's how it starts before it. Mm-hmm. It's how it's functioning in the platform. So the emails, the interaction we're doing with that, the landing pages that we're using that, the usability for the team to go in and be able to modify things with ease instead of struggle. And also the integration. We were on some other platforms in the past. We integrated everything over to you guys. The integration has been really easy to do too. So it's all those, anything more technical than that, hey, I'm the wrong one for you guys to ask. I have a whole team at Food Dog Group and our partnership company that does that stuff. But we also leverage guys like you, John, and people in there to say, how do we, and here's a question all of you could ask. It's one, if you're not on the platform, say to yourself, is there possibly a better world, a better life, having something different, and entertain it. It's always free to have that conversation. The number two thing to consider is what I believe we're really good at is, hey, can I show you what we're doing? What don't we know? That has made me millions and millions and millions of dollars. What don't I know? And being a very humble student. Matter of fact, at this event I went to, which I'm well known in this space, and someone said to me that I knew from years ago, it says, it's great to see you be a student. I said, I'm an amazing student. I drop everything I think I know and who I am, and I sit there and embrace everything. And while they're just watching, I left with 33 strategic and tactical items, just thinking through things that they were saying. So I hope that's helpful for everybody.
Absolutely. And you actually delve in a little bit more than I expected in the sense of with time and just, you know, we shifted from such a strong emotional, really down to heart ending. And I appreciate you just following my flow and really just giving that value, because we do have people that are positioning this as a white label. They position it as a co-label. We have folks that are learning about high level at events like you. They hear you talking about it. They're doing research with, on YouTube, and then they come across you as a familiar face. And oh yeah, man, Mike really does use it that way. And it just helps overall build that community and movement that you've been sharing, that you've experienced. For those that have come across this episode, whether it's through, following, supporting Mike Agugliaro, being in the home service industries, maybe learning about it by chance, or being a user or a trial user of our software, we appreciate your time. For those that don't know how to get started with high level, there's a link below where you can set up a free trial and experience it. But most importantly, Mike has been generous enough to share a link below here as well with some resources, some ways to contact him and his team, some of the events that he hosts that you can maybe watch the replays of, or just have that connectivity. And maybe when it's the time for you to level it to a different part of your life, you know someone who can help you. So, Mr. Agugliaro, thank you so much for your time, and it was a pleasure reconnecting with you. To our audience, thank you for your attention, for taking copious notes, and for really coming in and leaving with better in mind. Mike,
Yeah.
have a great one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Boom.
Take care.